Yep, what's going on? We are back for another episode of the regular podcast on the regular network.
It's real.
All right, y'all, what's going on, man? We back for another week of this thing. A lot has happened this week. I had a lot of notes, a lot of topics to get into and discuss. I really had to chop it down. Some of the stuff is not related to news, like what's going on in the news, so I end up having to push it back. We're gonna have to get into some of this stuff that I had on my list another time. How y'all doing though, man? I'm cool. It's been a cool week. I've been recovering from all that sickness I was telling y'all about the last couple weeks. I'm pretty much back. I'm back. I haven't been able to get enough energy back to get to the gym yet, but I'm back though. So, being back, I will get back in the gym within the next couple days. So, that's cracking. That's going on. I've been exploring different opportunities, and I actually got in touch with somebody that I'm thinking that I'm about to start messing with on this whole podcast thing. So hopefully that goes good. It's a long distance type of situation. So we'll see how that works. Y'all will hear more about that in the future if we can make it happen. If we don't make it happen, then you just won't hear anything about it, and you can forget that I even said this. Everything is everything. The hottest thing that's going on right now in the space that I operate in is this Katt Williams interview on Shannon Sharp's podcast called Club Shay Shay. Of course, this is the hottest thing going on. I'm saying in my sphere, but really it's the hottest thing in all of American culture right now because of how many people are consuming this interview, how many people are talking about it, discussing it, having feedback against it, speaking out against it. This is the biggest thing going. Shannon Sharp put the interview out on like Wednesday or Tuesday, I think. Tuesday or Wednesday, right? Listen, when he put that in, like, first of all, everybody has discussed this thing to death, so I'm not going to get in depth on what he was discussing in the interview. It's a great interview. Katt Williams was saying pretty much anything that came to his head. It was funny. Some stuff was clearly him lying, but some stuff was him giving his feedback on how he feels about people in the industry, in his industry, comedy, right? But one thing that I think is amazing is how Shannon Sharp kicked off the year with a podcast that went this viral, with an interview that went this viral, because when he put that interview out on like Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it was, his channel was a big channel. It had 1.4 million subscribers on the channel, which is a lot. Today, right now, there's 2.05, so 2,050,000 subscribers. So he gained 600,000 subscribers in just 4 days from dropping this interview. That's how big this thing has gone. It went from 0 views when they dropped it and premiered it to the interview. Last time I checked, like a couple hours ago, it was at 23 million views on a 2.5 hour interview, 2 hours and 46-minute interview. That's unheard of, for real. Only you see views like that go up on like music videos, on short viral content like Mr. Beast type content. Mr. Beast is not putting out 2.5 hour videos for the most part, right? So the fact that Shannon Sharp sitting at at the time 1.4 million subscribers was able to put an interview out, just two black men talking about black culture, about things going on in the history in the last 30 years of black culture, has gone this viral is just crazy. ESPN is posting about it. Because Kevin Hart responded or kind of like tried to joke back on Katt Williams on ESPN. It's just a phenomenon right now as far as interviews go. And I just want to applaud Shannon Sharp. I grew up a Broncos fan, so I grew up like my first jersey I ever had was a Shannon Sharp jersey. So that's when I was like 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. So you don't have to ask how much of a Shannon Sharp fan I've been over all this time. Greatest tight end ever, if you ask me. He was borderline a receiver for real. He just played tight end. But one of the GOATs, if you ask me. So, and he's making his way in this whole content space, doing his sports talk thing on network TV, and then also doing his podcast stuff. He's blowing up as a podcaster, and for the most part, a lot of the people he's interviewing, they don't discuss sports at all. It's legacy acts that come up there and want to tell their story to Shannon Sharp. I think it's great. I think it's amazing, man. Shout out to him. Shout out to Katt Williams. People are talking about it like Katt Williams is just some jealous comedian who like messed his career up and is mad at the world, right? But it's funny because Katt Williams is still one of the most successful comedians actively right now, and that's with him talking about people in the industry that way. He's not a failed comedian at all, even with the drug use, even with the being arrested all those times, even with the alcoholism, even with all of this stuff over all these years and him exposing people's business. He's still having a successful career, like still doing his last Netflix special wasn't that long ago. You know what I'm saying? So, and he's on tour right now, like a big tour. So I don't understand the whole like, oh, he's just mad because his career didn't go the way he wanted. His career is extremely successful. Katt Williams was never on the trajectory that Kevin Hart is on. There's like, even though he talks about like, yo, I turned down that role and Kevin Hart took it, that happened and it's been verified that it happened. Those roles that he's talking about he turned down were not the roles that put Kevin Hart on the path that he's on right now. Like Kevin Hart's movie roles, in my estimate, the way I estimate it, is not what made him go the path that he went. Like Kevin Hart's stand-up specials is what took him to where he went to. When he did I'm a Grown Little Man and Seriously Funny and then Laugh at My Pain or whatever came after Seriously Funny, that series of stand-ups is what blew Kevin Hart like just past everybody else. Because from there, then he started to do once he started doing the international tours and all that type of stuff, and then once he started to get in movie roles with like Ice Cube and then The Rock and then bigger productions, he did the joint with Bryan Cranston and all that. Like Katt Williams was never on that path. You see what I'm saying? Katt Williams was always on the path to be what he is right now. Like a legendary comedian that had a cult following that's very funny, that was going to be a legendary comedian. Kevin Hart is a legendary businessman in this culture, in this comedy culture. That's the path Kevin Hart put himself on when he started to take off with the stand-up specials. You see what I'm saying? So I don't even get where and why they would be beefing just because Kevin Hart took some roles that you turned down. They not in the same lane to me at all. Kevin Hart is way more family friendly and Katt Williams is way more adult heavy content. So I don't even get the beef. I wish they would stop beefing. I feel like these are two people that have never stepped on each other's toes. They're never going to be in the same atmosphere of comedy. Some people think that Katt Williams is extremely funny and one of the funniest comedians and way funnier than Kevin Hart. But that's and some people feel like Kevin Hart has been handling business and putting people on and starting new businesses and all that immaculately. So the reason we respect them two are for two totally different things. I think Kevin Hart is funny though. I'm just saying a lot of people feel like Katt Williams is way funnier than him. You see what I'm saying? So they're not even, and they don't talk about the same stuff. They're just not the same at all. Just besides being short black men that tell jokes, other than that, they don't have anything in common. I mean, what's the difference? Like, anyway, so I wish that these beefs would stop. Like, if it was just jokes and all that, like I'm down with the jokes. I seen a video that came out. Ricky Smiley was like crying or whatever after the fact. When it get to that point, it's like, all right, so just leave the man alone. If he ain't with that, then he not on that. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not talking specifically about the interview. I'm talking about stuff that came afterwards, and I'm talking about surrounding the interview. But anyway, yes, that's been the biggest thing going on right now. I think it's been so big that other major news stories that are happening are being squashed by this whole Katt Williams interview thing. Like, everybody's talking about it because I feel like we haven't seen the real virality that's going to come with this YSL trial and this bombshell testimony that's been taking place this week, right? The person testifying, his name is Trontavious Stevens, right? He is a supposed founder of YSL. So just the fact that they had, and he's a state's witness. So the state called this man to testify against the people, on trial right now, pretty much against Young Thug. And this is a bombshell testimony because he's a star witness, right? This man was supposed to be the one that helped start setting the stage to take down YSL because he has insider knowledge. He was there from the beginning. He can tell, he can give the jury a timeline of the events, tell them, hey, they were doing this. We were committing these crimes. We were committing these crimes to further the criminal gang and to instill fear in the hearts of our, adversaries, our ops or our rivals, whatever like that, rival gang members, all that type of stuff, or people in the community. That was his job, and that's the job of every person who was because Trontavia Stevens was a defendant in the original case, but he took a plea deal. So now he's a state's witness. And he agreed to that in his plea deal to testify truthfully to the facts of the case, the quote unquote facts of the case, AKA testify to agree to all the things that us as the state believe happened. Right. So this Katt Williams thing was so big that people, I don't think, have fully gotten a chance to sit down and watch this man's testimony in criminal court in Georgia's biggest trial ever. Listen, this man is up there acting like, first of all, a lot of people are saying like, oh, this is sad. He's ignorant. He don't understand math. He don't know how to do it. This man is acting like the stupidest person in history right now on that stand. He is up like this lady, the prosecutor asked him, how old were you in 2010? He's like, I don't know. I'm trying to, I can't remember. It's so long ago, I don't remember. She's like, you don't know how old you were in 2010? He was like, nah. She was like, can you try to think about it real quick? Like, you were born in 1993. So how old were you in 2010? This man picked up a pen and was about to start doing the math. He said, let me do the math real quick. She said, no, don't do the math. How about this? Like he is flipping on them right now. And he's their witness. He's the prosecution's witness. This man said, I don't know how old I was. He picked a pen up to write down the numbers to figure out how old he was in 2010. Masterful. They get to the point where they say so they supposedly affiliated with the Bloods, right? The Blood gang, Sex Money Murder. So they get up in there and they say like, so are you familiar with any blood gangs? He's like, yeah, I'm familiar with any blood gangs. She was like, what blood gangs are you familiar with? He was like, the Bloods. I don't know what you mean. Like, I'm familiar with the Bloods, the Blood gang. I'm familiar with it. So eventually I guess he like ran out of acting stupid with that one. So then eventually he said like, I'm familiar with Sex Money Murder, whatever. And then she was like, can you show us like any hand signs, identifications and all that type of stuff with Sex Money Murder? He like, nah, I don't really know any. So she can't go because like I said previously in another episode, the judge and they're not allowing the prosecution to go forward with the questioning or a certain type of questioning unless the witness says something first. So if the witness won't say what the prosecution wants them to say, then the prosecution can't ask questions furthering their own agenda in this case. So he's like, I don't really know nothing about Sex Money Murder. And he got on stand and said, admitted to being a fake Blood gang member. He pretty much said, yes, I was falsely claiming the Bloods. I was never in it. So that further messes up this whole thing because they've been saying this YSL is like a subset and affiliated with the Sex Money Murder Bloods. They're all part of the YSL. They all part of the Rock Crew. And they was all part of Sex Money Murder Bloods. But he's like, nah, I was false. That I never got jumped into it, so I never was initiated. I'm not really a gang member. I'm not a Blood gang member anyway. I was fake flagging, pretty much is what he was saying. I was faking. So that messes up the questioning and all that, right? They can't go forward with that one. So then they're asking him like, all right, so you got these tattoos, like you was wearing all this red and stuff. Like, why were you wearing all this red? He like, oh, well, because like Young Thug did a partnership with Rich Gang and the colors, like the theme of the partnership the collab was red and black. So they had a whole bunch of merch that was red and black. So I just had a bunch of red items. They like, so it didn't signify nothing else. It was just a collab with a merch thing. He like, yeah, it was just a merch thing. She like, what does merch mean? He like, I don't know what merch to me just mean merch. He like, this merch, what merch doesn't mean anything else? Like merch, like merchandise. She like, yeah, it means merchandise. He like, well, it just means merch to me. I don't know. Dude is putting on a great performance. Like they get to this point in the thing where they're looking at his tattoos, right? So he has a B it's a B inside of a money bag on his neck. Then he has an F, like if you've seen the famous clothing line, the clothing line is called Famous, but it's an F with like a star in it. The F on his neck and then an L on his neck. The L is made with the shape of a gun, right? So she's like, yo, trying to break down his tattoo. So asking her, like, where did that F come from? And why is it cut? Because the F has red ink around it. So she's like, why is there red ink on there? He's like, I got the red ink because that's like because I'm dark skinned. That's one of the only colors that'll show up on my skin. She's like, so it's not have anything to do with bloods or a gang or nothing like that. He was like, nope. It's just because that's the only color that'll show up on my skin for real. So then she says, okay, so what does this tattoo mean? This BSF. I mean, this BFF. FL. What does it mean? He was like, well, because you see the B is in the money bag, BFL actually stands for banking first and last, or bank first and last, meaning like we put the money before everything. I'm like, oh, this nigga's a genius right here. Like, this is genius activity that we seeing here. Like, we thought Brian Steele was crazy when he said like thug stood for truly humble under God. Like we thought that was just outrageous, right? But the work that this boy Trontavia Stevens, aka Tick, aka Slug, is putting in on this stand, he is refusing to go home being considered a snitch. He is refusing. And if this testimony is anything, is any indication of what the rest of the defendants are gonna do, Thug is coming home. Not only is Thug coming home, but when he comes home, the state is gonna lock the rest of them up for perjury. 100%. The rest of them are getting perjury. If they do what Trontavia Stevens is doing, first of all, he's going to get a perjury charge. They're coming for him. The prosecutor got so mad when this man was testifying, or so irritated, visibly shaken at this man's testimony. She stopped asking him questions about the case and brought out his 35-page plea agreement and then proceeded to go over his plea agreement in front of the court, in front of the jury with him, saying, don't you remember seeing this plea agreement? Don't you remember that you agreed to testify truthfully enough? Don't you remember you said that this was a gang? Don't you remember you said this? Don't you remember you said that? You know what this man said? He said, yeah, but everybody else had a month to look over their plea agreement. I only had a day. Y'all gave me a 30-page plea agreement and only a day to sign it. Like I didn't really understand what I was signing. She was like, did you tell anybody that you didn't, or did you tell Miss Hilton, the other lady, that you didn't understand what you were signing? He was like, no, I didn't tell. I told you. So he telling the lady, the prosecutor, I told you. And then she objects. She tells, Your Honor, I object to what he's saying. She's objecting to her own witness. This lady objected to her own witness like 3 times up there. Like, y'all have to understand what's going, like, this is out of pocket. This whole thing is crazy. The rails have fallen. This man been testifying for 3 days now, and it's all direct examination. This is all the prosecutor questioning this man. He hasn't even been spoken to by the defendant's attorneys yet on cross-examination. 3 days, this is a state's witness, and they can't get anything out of him. They even got to the point where they said, ask this man, what is a snitch? He said, I don't know what a snitch is. They're like, well, what does it mean to you? He was like, I don't really know. It don't mean nothing to me, but I think it kind of means like law enforcement. Like if you're a snitch, you law enforcement. She was like, snitch means law enforcement. And she tell him, use it in a sentence. So he used it in a sentence. And she's like, now explain that sentence. She's like, yeah, I guess I'm saying he's law enforcement. Like this, I haven't seen nothing like this before. Honestly, I have not seen anything like this before. What he's doing up there is what people say they would do if they got in a situation where they was like forced to testify against one of their friends or brothers or something like that. But rarely do they do it because they get up there and they get scared and then they just start answering questions because they feel like I got to answer these questions or I'm going to get in trouble or something like that. This man is really executing the plan. He don't know what age he was when nothing was going on. He don't remember the first time he met nobody. He don't know nothing. It's brilliant. Another thing that happened. Oh, it's another thing. Part of the whole state's opening statement, right? It had a whole big thing about how this gang became to be, right? This YSL gang came to be. And one of the things they said was that all of these YSL members were originally Rock Crew members, and Rock Crew stands for Raised on Cleveland Crew, right? And they were all in Rock Crew, and then Rock Crew had some type of falling out, and then they branched off and created YSL as a sub gang, pretty much like a revamped gang. Like, we're gonna start our own gang now. We're not with the Rock Crew no more, type of thing. Another thing this man said, she said, can you name some people in the Rock Crew? And Brother Stevens is like, he started naming people. He's like, me, my brother, my cousin, like my friends, we was in the rock crew, right? She's like, do you see anybody in the courtroom that was in the rock crew? So he looking around like, he like, let me see. He like, nah, nobody in the courtroom was in the rock crew. She like, you don't see anybody in this courtroom that was in the rock crew. He's like, nah, nobody in here, nobody in this courtroom was raised on Cleveland. That's what he kept saying. He's like, I don't see anybody in here that was actually raised on Cleveland. She's like, okay, but was anybody in the rock crew? She was like, he's like, to be in the rock crew, you have to be born and raised on Cleveland. And nobody in this courtroom, pretty much besides me, was raised on Cleveland. All of them came around later. So that right there was probably, like, all the other stuff that I brought up was like, that just made them look stupid and all that. But that him saying that these people wasn't in the rock crew is probably the most damaging part of his whole testimony, because the entire premise was these dudes started out as gang members in the rock crew, which was affiliated with the Sex Money Murder Bloods. And then they branched off and started their own gang with the same principles and activities as the rock crew. Him saying none of these people was even in the rock crew because they wasn't even from there. Now that's the one right there. I'm so tuned into this thing because I'm ready to see how the prosecution is going to because they took a recess until Monday. So I'm anticipating how the prosecution is going to spin this and try to figure out and salvage what's going on. Because like I said, this man hasn't even been cross-examined yet. So once the defense get on him, it's really over. You know what I'm saying? It's like really, really over. Oh man, this is a legendary testimony. I'm putting this up there as one of the best testimonies I ever heard, ever. This man is determined to not come home being looked at as a snitch. He gonna be looked at as a king if they able to beat this case, because that testimony messed their whole case up. Let's just say, even if you get jammed up and you say, all right, I got to go back, do some time for perjury, which they're not just going to give you time for perjury, because everybody who took deals in that YSL case, they have probation and like 10 years of probation. Meaning, so we sentenced you to 10 years, but then we suspend the whole thing and just give you probation. So if you get a probation violation, we can now give you that entire 10 years back. Perjury would be classified as a violation of your probation, and you would get time for the perjury, and you would also get that time, whatever the judge decides to give you, for violating your probation. And they can give you up to 10 years. They can give you the whole thing back. So that's a danger that he's running into. He said he just got his CDL, so it's a very dangerous game that my man is playing. However, he made a decision that he was going to go forward doing it. It's too late to turn back now, so he might as well continue going forward doing what he's doing. Like I said, once you choose that life, you choose that life. He's choosing to go out like this, and can you be mad at him? You don't want to be. You really would have to move out of Atlanta if you went up there and did the wrong thing. Honestly, like, you would have to leave this city, and he probably don't want. He said he still live over there, like still actively lives there. He's not a rich rapper's friend. Like, he's a person that's going through hard times financially, had to go get his CDL. Like, would have a hard time being around his friends and family he grew up with if he went in that courtroom and did the wrong thing. I could guarantee you that much. Before I transition off of this, I want to say, for people who normally try to talk about how like street dudes is like stupid and they make bad decisions and do all that good stuff. Now, while it is not smart to, find yourself in situations like they're in right now, for them to be considered like these like violent crime bosses that they've been painted by the media in Atlanta and all this type of stuff, by the prosecution and by Fulton County District Attorney's Office, they have been having the state has been having a very hard time linking these people to many major like bad crimes. They have them associated with a bunch of like drug possessions and stolen gun possessions, stolen car stuff, like not minor, but small time offenses, petty crimes, pretty much. They don't, when they talk about organizations like this and how violent they are and all that, you would normally say, okay, yeah, they had this many people killed, they had this many people shot, they had this many. They don't have none of that. So they have been moving the way people say street dudes are supposed to move. They have been moving like that because the state is even the murder that they have associated with this case from 2015. Do y'all realize that they charged them before with this? And back years ago, right around when it first happened, people got charged for that murder and they got let go. They dismissed it. The reason they dismissed it is because they couldn't put no case together. They're having a very, very, very hard time pinning charges on these dudes. So they're really moving the way people say street dudes are supposed to move. Like the state is really struggling to get them. And maybe they are guilty of everything that people be accusing them of. But the way that they moved around with whatever type of rules, tactics, strategies that they used, it is making it damn near impossible to get them. So that's why they use this RICO case to try to round up as many of them as they can, because they can't get none of these charges to stick. So while some people might look at them, look down on whatever, I would say you got to salute how smart they have moved to keep their names unassociated or disassociated with some of these heinous crimes that they've been that has been rumored to be associated with them, but nobody can get any hard facts on it. So I just wanted to say that, man. Y'all if you into this type of stuff, man, make sure you watch. I watched the trial on a YouTube channel called Law and Crime. Great YouTube channel to watch any type of criminal case on, any type of trial. That's a great one to watch. That's a great channel to watch because in between like court recesses and stuff like that, they have lawyers commentating. It's like watching a football game. They have lawyers and stuff like that commentating on what's going on, what they see, what they think is coming, what they think is happening, how they think the trial is going, all that type of stuff. So, man, this is a good case. This is the biggest case that Georgia's ever seen. It'll be the longest. It's the most expensive. It's a landmark case in the state of Georgia. Careers will be made off of this, and some people will be probably fired because of what's going to happen as a result of it. So, yeah, man, I think y'all should check it out. But let me transition to some more information heavy type of things. So now another one of the bigger things that has been going on in the news this week, and also has been overshadowed by this Katt Williams thing. A young lady named Claudine Gay, right? She was the Harvard president. She got hired to be Harvard president in like July of 2023, but she had been working at Harvard for years. Like she went to Harvard. She's been working at Harvard. She's just like a genius, really, right? She has a long history of being at the highest, most elite institutions since she was a kid. Elite institutions like Stanford, Princeton, Harvard, like just you name it, even private schools as a child. Like she was the one. Her mom was a nurse. Her dad was an engineer. Her family is from Haiti. Both her parents from Haiti. In Haiti, her family owns the largest concrete manufacturing facility company. So she just comes from like prestigious family and prestigious background and stuff like that, right? So if they were going to make a black person the head of Harvard, like to them is just like, this is the perfect one. Let's do it with her. She's checks every single box that you could possibly check. That's how it looks on paper, right? So she got the job. Then, by the way, her name is Claudine Gay. She is the cousin of author Roxane Gay. Let me show you. I have this book, Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. You see, this book is got this book, like me and Shay started reading it like 2016, something like that. So that just goes to show you, like, this lady's, like, her family, they got tentacles. They got tentacles, people in places and stuff like that. And that's an intellectual family. Like, they're thinkers, and this lady's background is more than proves it, right? So pretty much she got the job. Some people didn't like it, but like I said, her background is like immaculate. So you really argue against it, right? So she got the job, and then something happens. And well, first of all, she had some controversy throughout her time there because they were saying, or they were accusing her of being too heavily supportive of like cancel culture. And like, so they were canceling speakers from coming to the university if they said things like there's only two genders or something like that. If they said that before, cancel, you can't come to Harvard. Or like if a student got found out that they had said something similar in high school, all right, cancel, you no longer enrolled here, or you won't be admitted to come to this university. We are rescinding our offer to you, stuff like that. So she was big on like cancel culture. She was getting people out of here if they didn't say stuff that was deemed respectful of everybody or inclusive, right? So then we get to the point in October where the Hamas versus Israel thing just gets crazy. It just went crazy. A lot of killing started happening from there. And I guess some anti-Israel or maybe pro-Gaza or pro-Palestine people on the Harvard campus started to, I guess, run around campus saying a bunch of what they considered anti-Semitic rhetoric, right? And some people, I guess, some people were saying, I guess, that some of the rhetoric was like in support of violence against Israel or Jewish people, right? So when Claudine Gay got to the crossroad of how do you handle this, her response was pretty much like, well, this is free speech. We don't want to condemn anybody for their views on whatever. So I'm not going to punish them, or I'm not going to handle it the way y'all think I should handle it. Like, this is just a free speech. This is protected speech. So I'm not really going to do anything to them. And I guess the Jewish community went crazy from there. So she ended up having to go to a hearing in front of Congress in December, along with a couple other presidents of universities. They had to go to hearings, and it didn't go well at all. The hearing didn't go well at all. The other two the head of universities, they ended up resigning pretty much right after that hearing. It just went so bad. And the reason the congressional hearing went so bad is because the way they were answering questions was they felt like too political and too like on the fence of why are you not making a hard stance against anti-Semitism? Pretty much, right? It seems like you're too much. They took it like she was too much on the fence of not making a hard stance against violence against Jewish people. So it's like, well, yeah, I get it that they said this, but that's their opinion. Like, let them say what they want. Pretty much is how she was taking it when people were saying anti-Semitic stuff. Like, let them say what they want. It's free speech, like whatever.
That commitment extends even to views that many of us find objectionable, even outrageous. We do not punish or sanction people for expressing such views, but that is a far cry for endorsing them. It's in the exercise of our freedom to speak that we reveal our characters, and we reveal the character of our institution. We can issue public pronouncements declaring the rightness of our own points of view and vilify those who disagree, or we can choose to talk and to listen with care and humility, to seek deeper understanding, and to meet one another with compassion. We can inflame an already volatile situation on our campus, or we can focus our attention where it belongs, on the unfolding tragedy thousands of miles away.
And people did not like that. So then, of course, they came out with this whole, well, hey, this lady been plagiarizing for years. Like, let's get her out of here because she's a plagiarist. So then that pressure started to build and build and build. Like, hey, she plagiarizes and stuff like that. And then eventually this week, she ended up resigning from the university's position of president. And she was president of the Harvard Corporation. Look, Harvard's whole business structure is like weird to me. So if y'all want to know more about it, go look it up. They say Harvard Corporation is the oldest corporation in the Western Hemisphere. So like, go ahead, y'all go look that up. I don't look. All right. So anyway, she resigned this week. It was a big thing in academic circles. It was a big thing politically because it comes from political views and all that type of stuff. So they're trying to make it seem like it's because of plagiarism. It really wasn't. It was because of the typical Jewish shakedown thing. You say something we didn't like, or not even that she didn't say, well, she did say stuff they didn't like, but it wasn't because of her own words. It was because the way Jewish power works is, not only should you not say anti-Semitic things, but if you are a person in power, you need to properly punish people who say anti-Semitic things. And if you don't, then we're going to hold you to the same standard that we're going to hold the person that's anti-Semitic themselves. Because now we're looking at you like you support what they said about us. So that's pretty much what happened. They was on her head. So much that Alan Dershowitz came out. Alan Dershowitz is a dude, and I talked about him sometime last year or whatever on a podcast episode. And I said, and he was one of the people, well, he was Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, right, for a long time. So anyway, he's a Jewish man and he speaks up for the Jewish community in his own way, right? This man is like the Umar of Jewish people, honestly, because he kind of radical a little bit. Like he be saying some wild shit sometimes, right? But he came out and said he did an interview with Forbes, and he was like, and I'll put a piece of it in here. Pretty much, Claudine Gay was never the right choice for this university. Pretty much, he's like, she should have never gotten a job. He pointed out the fact that she had punished people in the past, like while she was president and while she was, because she was dean of a college at Harvard before, not Howard. She was dean of a college at Harvard before she became president of the Harvard Corporation. So she had punished people previously for pretty much freedom of speech or freedom of expression before, like got them out of the university and made it so they couldn't come to the university because of their views on things like equality and education, or things like, sexuality, stuff like that. She had gotten people removed and stuff like that. But now when it comes to violence against Jewish people, now is free speech and everything like that. So Alan Dershowitz was never down with what she was talking about. He felt like she only got the job because of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. He just wasn't with it, and he was vocally against her having that job, and she doesn't have it now.
She was always the wrong person at the wrong time for the wrong job. When she became president of Harvard, she had been the dean of Harvard College and had been a disaster. She was kind of instrumental in what's called the safeism policy. That is, keep students safe from dangerous ideas, but don't protect them from violence. She has applied a double standard. She's presided over an administration which canceled lectures by people who believe there are two genders, canceled lectures, rescinded invitations and acceptances to students based on what they might have said in high school to a friend. Harvard became the worst school in the United States for free speech. And suddenly, on December 7th, Claudine Gay discovered free speech in order to defend Hamas supporters who want to commit genocide against Israel. Her recent championing of the First Amendment is very questionable. She should have admitted to the Congressional Committee that under Harvard's standards, which are wrong, but under Harvard's long-term standards where microaggressions aren't permitted, of course calling for the genocide of Jews is against Harvard's rules. But she was not honest with the committee. She said instead, and I'll quote her, "We embrace a commitment to free expression." I wish it was true, but it wasn't true. She stands for the opposite of free expression. She stands for cancel culture, censorship, the diversity, equity, and inclusion monstrosity, bureaucracy, which has taken over college campuses. And so the board that appointed her initially repeated their mistake by keeping her on after she's proved her incompetence to lead Harvard. A man named Ron Sullivan was the first African-American dean, along with his wife, of Winthrop House, one of the great houses of Harvard. And he, under the Constitution, was asked to defend Harvey Weinstein, which he did for 1 month. She led the campaign to fire him because he made students feel unsafe. She said, if you're a dean, you have a pastoral responsibility to keep students safe. And she said he didn't adequately explain why he defended Harvey Weinstein, as if a lawyer has to explain why he exercises a constitutional obligation under the Sixth Amendment. So she was responsible for creating this atmosphere. Under her presidency, lectures have been canceled, admissions have been canceled, an atmosphere of intolerance has pervaded the campus. Not only that, but Harvard itself has a terrible policy. Just about a decade earlier, the great president of Harvard, Lawrence Summers, was fired by the Harvard Corporation because he said something that suggested to some that men and women may have unequal capacities in math, physics, and other subjects. That was not protected speech. But calling for the genocide of Jews is protected speech.
So I do want to say, I think her biggest mistake here was not standing on a standard, like not keeping a regular standard of how she handles the speech thing and people being offended. Because if you held these previous people to this standard of, if you say something that's offensive or like emotionally violent against other people, we have to punish you for that. Then you have to do the same thing to the people on the campus who say anti-Semitic things. Not saying I agree that I'm not saying I think the people are wrong. I'm saying that as a person in power who handles some people this way, you have to go forward handling everybody that way. If not, you're going to look like you specifically chose to support anti-Jewish people. I'm not saying the lady is anti-Semitic. I'm saying that it looks like she specifically chose to support anti-Jewish people because she didn't punish those people the same way she punished people who said things about, women not being equal to men in education. She punished them. But then somebody says something about Jewish people, you don't punish them. If you weren't going to punish the people who spoke out about Jewish people, you should not have punished the previous people. So the problem is you just didn't, what they say now in the culture, you didn't stand on business. You wasn't on your square. You're flip-flopping. And flip-flopping is something that a lot of people can't defend because they didn't fire, like she didn't get fired or forced to resign for a while. It's been months since the anti-Semitic stuff happened on the campus, and it has been a full month since the congressional hearing, right? So she wasn't just forced out immediately. It was just, I think they just went over so much of what she has said in the past, and it just looks like you flip-flop too much and they can't support you. Now, had you been on one frame of mind the entire time, I think they could have got behind you a lot better. That's just my stance on it. I'm just looking at it, I'm like, why didn't they just get rid of her immediately? And I think it's because they were like I think they were debating, just going back and forth like, damn, she really didn't really do anything wrong. But it's hard to overlook her punishing people a few months ago for the same thing pretty much. So I think, and I do think it's worth noting that even though they're saying like, no, she got pushed out because of plagiarism, I do think it's worth noting that the person standing in for her, his name is Alan Gerber. What's his name? His name is Alan Garber, right? He just happens to be a Jewish man that has been working at the university for a long time. Just, he just happened to be a Jewish man. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. It is funny that her background she's an expert in like political science, social science, African-American, political and social sciences, and I guess race. So she was, she could teach on all these things, right? She was an expert on it. But she somehow didn't see this coming with the way she was kind of handling business at Harvard. So it's like sometimes people are black, but they don't understand, even though she's been here for her whole life in America, they still don't understand what the treatment of black in America really is. Because like I said, she comes from like a prestigious family. So her upbringing wasn't that of a typical what we would consider a black American. She didn't really, I don't think she fully understood it. I think she came at blackness from an intellectual standpoint, meaning she just read about black people and blackness. Not to say that she's not black. I'm saying that most of her experiences of what we say about racism and stuff like that, and what we say about systems working against us and all that, I think she read about it more than she experienced it. And I think it's evidenced by how she handled her position at Harvard. That's just my take on it. Y'all, if somebody has any more information, let me know. But I believe that she was kind of being reckless with her power, and it bit her in the backside, because I don't fully think she understood like what it meant to have that position. Or I don't fully think she understood what it meant for when we say that when we talk about the system working against us. It feels like she just probably heard about it, read about it, but didn't believe it. She thought she can just hard work her way around racism. I think that's what she thought. That's what I think. Hey, if I'm wrong, sue me. Right? But let me move on, because I do think y'all should go do some more research on it. This lady is a genius. She still works at the university. They say that I guess she'll still be getting the pay that is like $900,000 a year or something like that. So she's fine. She'll be a faculty member at the school still. Maybe she might be a little embarrassed when she's walking around campus and stuff like that, but she'll be more than fine going forward in life. She still is a well-off, wealthy woman. She won't have any issues in life. Promise. Promise she'll be fine. I want to get on a topic that has bothered me for some time because I feel like I said last week, people will feel like if they just say this thing about black people, this adverse thing about black people, it just like, yeah, I'm smart, I'm right. And rarely do they take the time to go find any type of data or studies or any type of research to back up what they're saying. And I think it's because they would rather say it's black people's fault. Everything going on with black people in America is black people's fault. So you shouldn't look outside of black people to try to find a cause of any of this stuff. Like it's just us. Like don't look anywhere else. Like y'all aren't getting these jobs because you don't have a good resume, or you didn't get that house because you don't have good credit, or like stuff like that is just they would rather believe that racism is not playing any type of factor in what's going on here. So a common thing that I see and that I hear is that black people are the reason, like Louis Vuitton or Arnold Bernot got $100 billion because black people buy so much Louis, or all of these Gucci has billions of dollars because black people buy so much Gucci. And I'm like, and I always thought, like, why do y'all keep saying that? Like, you probably, unless you are a person that makes a lot of money or something like that, and you just hang around a bunch of people with a lot of money, you probably don't even know a single black person with a real Gucci item or a real Louis item. You probably don't know one, unless you hang around people that have money. You don't know no bunch of broke black people with no real Louis Vuitton. You don't know a bunch of broke black people with real Gucci. If they, like, let's be real. If they have it, they want the look. They really buying it for $15 at the nearest like flea market or whatever like that. They're not really buying real Louis, and we're not really spending thousands of dollars on Louis bubble coats and Gucci trench coats and all that. Like that's made up. Y'all made that up in your head, and then you just keep running with it to make yourself feel like you saying something smart. Let's be real. The only black people who buy that type of stuff are the ones who can buy that kind of stuff. I can't fake buy a $5,000 purse. I can't do it. If I'm poor, living in the hood, I can't fake that. Either I really had $5,000 to go buy a purse, which I don't, or I just got a fake purse and it just say Louis Vuitton on it. That's more than likely what it is. But I want to say this because they make it seem like this stuff is being upheld by black people. So I wanted to just read something to y'all because y'all think that it's just us. I'm just going to tell y'all the number one consumer. South Koreans are the world's biggest spenders on luxury goods. Right? Total spending on goods by South Koreans year on year around 24%. Oh, no, sorry. Okay, so pretty much, so South Korea is, what they say? Get what they say here. South Korea is around the size of Kentucky. There's about 50 million people in South Korea, and they lead per capita the highest spending per person on luxury items. Right. Number 2 is America at like $200 something a person, and number 3 is China. But overall, Asians by far buy more luxury goods than everybody. Really, they buy the most. By far, though, it's not close. If you combine all the Asian countries, and they buy way more. But somehow, and America as a country is not even number one. But somehow, people like to repeat that it's black people buying all of the luxury goods. How? Let me go to something real quick, right? And they go to this like, oh, trillion, like people like to say black people have a 1 trillion dollar buying power. So that's why we're using our money on like Louis and Mercedes, and we're not using it on anything of real value. Let me read this tweet from Boyce Watkins. Black people spent $1.6 trillion this year, more than the GDP of Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and about 200 other countries. We have plenty of money. What we don't have are the skills required to build institutions that preserve our economic power. Okay, Boyce Watkins is a PhD he has a PhD in finance, and he made a tweet like that, right? He didn't post a link to a study. He didn't do the study himself. He didn't post any real data behind it. He just said we spent $1.6 trillion this year. In reality, what what's really going on is they say, because CLIG, which is a school at the University of Georgia, they do a study every year and they put out this report, this economic report pretty much, right? They put out a report that black people in America have buying power of $1.533 trillion. We didn't spend that much money. We have buying power of that much money. And what that means is after taxes, how much money comes into the house. That's before expenses and everything else. But after taxes, how much money is coming? So then I'm just like, but this dude is a PhD in finance, but he's not given any type of, not only is he wrong about the 1.6 trillion and us, because we didn't spend that much money. He's just flat out wrong about that. Not only is he wrong about it, he didn't even care to do any type of study to say, well, this is actually what these numbers mean. And here's how we look at it. Let's look at, there's a report done by McKinsey and Company, right? And I just want to read some of it. I don't necessarily like the direction and agenda of the report, because the agenda of this report I'm about to read from McKinsey is talking about how black Americans are a consumer base that's untapped, and there's another $300 billion that can be extracted from black people if companies will just do the right thing and market to us the right way. So I don't like where this is going, but there's good information in this report. So I just want to read it to y'all real quick. It's just one of the subheading is there's a big market to be unearthed if companies meet the real needs of black consumers. So they are really trying to figure out how they can extract more money from the little that we already have. But let's get into it. Okay. I do wish I could look at it. Okay. Black households do have lower income and wealth. Wait, see, there's more. Okay. I feel like I should read all this, but I don't want to just read it all. But if y'all want to listen, though, we can read too. Black households do have lower income and wealth. Despite being 13.4% of the U.S. population, black households account for just under 10% of the nation's total spending goods and services. That's in 2019. So, of course, some of this data comes out years or a couple years afterwards, after it's been documented. So we're not going to have this all the way up until 2023. That's just, it comes out years later. Because black workers bring home smaller paychecks, they have less money to work with every month, especially after accounting for debt. Nonetheless, companies that interpret this data as proof that there's little profit. Well, okay, let me skip over that, right? Let me look through here. So I just want to say there, right? Even though black people are 13.4% of the population in America, we spend less than we account for less than 10% of the spending. So when they talk about black people and all our terrible spending habits and all that, they never want to discuss the fact that we don't spend to the proportion of our population in this country. Why do they leave that out? It's because because they want to look for a reason to blame black people for what's going on in this country, right? You just always leave that part out, right? We have less money and we spend less than what's going on. Okay, so here we go. Let's look. Let me see here. We estimate. Like I said, this article is about the agenda of figuring out how to tap into that $300 billion of untapped resources in the black community that they can extract and figure out how to take it. Okay. So like I said, this is from McKinsey and Company. Their agenda is how can we get this money up out of black people? So they're not coming at it from any other angle. There's no denying that black consumption has been constrained, and while it's growing quickly, that growth is started from a lower base. The steadily rising cost of housing, healthcare, and higher education, needs that are foundation to the quality of life and the possibility of future mobility, are eating up large share of household budgets for all poor and middle-class American families, particularly for black households. The share of expenditures black households direct to these three categories rose from 38% in 1984 to 45% in 2019. So to summarize that, black people in America spend 45% of our income on housing, healthcare, and higher education. That doesn't include transportation. It doesn't include debt, and it does higher education and healthcare would be. So let's say that doesn't include transportation, and it doesn't include food. Those are major necessary expenditures. And we spend 45% on just those three items: housing, healthcare, and higher education. Think about that. Again, they like to tell you that black people are just out here blowing our money on stupidity, but they don't want to look at the actual numbers. If you just look at the actual numbers, it will support the fact that there is something greater at play that is hindering us from doing certain things that we want to do to progress ourselves. Because contrary to popular belief, spending habits is not the issue. Let's go on. Let's go. And this information comes from the, let me read this real quick. Our analysis of publicly available but previously uncompiled microdata from the Census Bureau Consumers Expenditure Survey shows that at similar income levels, black households spend a smaller share of their income than white households, although more goes to the basics. This is not, however, translated into more liquid savings. More money in black households goes to giving financial support to extended family, servicing higher student debt burdens, and paying higher interest rates on various consumer loans. Y'all sick for saying black people have bad spending habits, and that's the reason we can't get ahead. You a sick one for that. Let me read this again, because you sick for talking about us like that without ever doing any research on the situation. We talking about people as high as black PhDs. We talking about people who run magazines like Essence. I seen a crazy article from y'all talking about black people spending on luxury. We talking about people in high places that have a lot of influence in the black community that want to perpetuate this idea that black people are blowing all our money on stupid shit. You're wrong. The numbers don't support what you're saying. The Census Bureau is not biased politically in any way. They just have numbers. They just have data, and they just report it. And then it's up to media companies like myself and other media companies to go out there and interpret that information. Where did y'all get this idea from that black people spent $1.6 trillion in a year? Where'd you get that from? You made it up. Where did y'all get from that black people are leading in some type of way in luxury consumption? Where'd you get it from? You made it up, or you listened to somebody that was also wrong about black people. No numbers anywhere support that. Let me read this again. Black households. Okay, here we go. Survey shows that at similar income levels, black households spend a smaller share of their income than white households, although more goes towards the basics. This has not, however, translated into more liquid savings. More money in black households goes to giving financial support to extended family, servicing higher student debt burdens, and paying higher interest rates on consumer loans. We don't even talk about the highest interest rates that we get just because we're black. That's the black tax. Nobody want to talk about that. It's like, hey, you want to go listen to one of these white financial gurus, and they're gonna tell you, hey, yeah, put this much money down on your credit card every month, and you'll be paid off in 6 months. And we sitting here like, dang, that ain't really work for me. I've been trying to do it, but I'm trying to figure it out. Like, I don't have enough money to put that much money down on my credit card every month. Like, how are they doing this? You can't figure it out, but you don't want to say out loud why you can't figure it out. But there's a bunch of people that feel the same way about what's going on. They can't figure out either how this is working like this. The reason it's working like this is because you have a way higher interest rate than the person that's giving that advice. You don't have but you like, dang, I got a 740 credit score. Like, why can't I, but the thing about it is people don't want to share that type of stuff because it's embarrassing. So you'll never know that the person is not able to do it. But the data says that we have higher interest rates. That's what the information said. I didn't make it up. It's not coming from me. This is what the U.S. Census Bureau said. You understand what I'm saying? And do we need to talk about the more money in black households goes to giving financial support to extended family? Because there's also this weak narrative that black people don't help each other, we don't support each other, we don't show love to each other and stuff like that. If part of the reason that we are having a hard time getting ahead financially is because a larger percentage of our money goes to helping extended family financially, how come people don't talk about that? Some people, but the people who actually help their family, we talk about it. But the people who like to run these narratives about black people and our bad spending habits, y'all don't ever want to talk about that. The fact that literally the family will fall apart if we let these people just go without having funds. They won't eat if we go without having these funds. They won't be able to pay for their shelter if they go without having these funds. So literally you have to help them out. You have to. You just can't not help them out. You can't say, oh, black people got to share our money within the community, and then you're going to call us stupid for actually sharing our money with the community. You like figure out a narrative that you can run with, that you can back up with some type of science. That's all I want from people. Stop getting in these high positions and then looking for a way to look down on other black people who have not done what you've done. See, I'm different. The stuff I'm talking, I'm not complaining about my life. I work to a position. I am not complaining about my life. I'm not talking about just my life. I'm talking about stuff I've been through, but I'm not talking about just my life. It ain't about me. The numbers that are out there and available for everybody to go read disagree with the stuff that y'all say about your own people. And you say it because you want to feel better than somebody. I get it. It helps you out. You want to feel like you're better than people. I get it. But you are factually wrong. Let me move on a little bit. Beneath these sobering realities, however, is a market with substantial buying power and influence. Okay, that's why I said this whole thing is about extracting money from black people. In 2019, consumer expenditures by black households totaled approximately $835 billion. Combined spending, okay, so in 2019, black people spent $835 million. Y'all realize that they have been saying black people had a $1.2 trillion buying power for like 7-8 years now. But you never heard them say that black people combined spent $835 billion. So where's this buying power versus what we are spending? Two different things. And I already just told y'all earlier that 45% of all black dollars are going to three categories: housing, healthcare, and what was the third one? My bad, I forgot it that fast. Housing, healthcare, and higher education. Three things that people need. You don't need higher education. You need some form of higher education. It doesn't just mean college. So we are spending our money on the proper things. And it's still not really translating into us closing this wealth gap. The reason we're not able to close wealth gap because, like earlier mentioned in this article, we bring home less money than other people. They're paying us less, and it just is what it is. We make less money. The pay gap, as I've been saying since 2016, is not a gender pay gap. It's a racial pay gap. There's different pay scales for each race. If you go look up the pay, and when you look up the pay scales per race, you're going to see a bigger gap from race to race than you're going to see from gender to gender. You see what I'm saying? The pay gap is really white women make 10% more than black men. If it's a gender pay gap, shouldn't I make more than her? Asian women make like 20% more than black men. If it's a gender pay gap, shouldn't I make more than that lady? No, it don't work like that. They pay per race in this country. If we all had the same job, they would pay you based on like who's connected with who and who can do this for. Okay, the white person is going to get paid the most. The Asian person is their pay is what it is because of the fields that they work in a lot of times. But if we really accounted for all the Asian people in this country, not just the ones that are like documented and went to college, if we accounted for all of them, their numbers would come down because a lot of them work in service fields that they don't make that much money in. That's another thing they'll talk about. They're lower earning people. They just keep them off the rolls. They keep them off the documentation, keep them away from statistics to keep their numbers looking better. Man, listen. Yeah, like, let me see. Do I got any? There's just too much information out there for for us to go look at to stop saying that black people are just blowing all our money on X, Y, like whatever. It's foolishness. It's too much information out there, right? I can read you real quick. The buying power, so total American buying power in 2023, and this is from that report I was talking about from the Selig Center, right? The Terry College of Business at the University of Georgia. The American buying power was $17.194 trillion. Or no, I'm sorry. It was $17 trillion, right? 17.194, right? So the white portion of that is 13.89 trillion. Black portion of that is 1.53 trillion, right? The Asian percentage of that is 1.33 trillion. So you got to think about this. In the population of America, there's double plus tax the amount of black people that there are Asian people, but they essentially have the same buying power as black people. Okay. And for Native American, $136 billion, which a lot of them are off the rolls, so that makes sense. Hispanic, which could be different races or whatever, but Hispanic they have broken out because that's an ethnicity, not a race, is $1.9 trillion. So the population, the Hispanic and the black population are similar. Like there's 14% Hispanic or 14 or 15% Hispanic population in America. There's like 13.4, 13.5 black percent population that's black. But they have 400 billion more on their spending power than we do in America, right? And that's not a knock on them. I mean, you gotta get how you live, right? So I just want I don't know what other information people need to see or hear or read, but please go read this information because y'all have to stop saying this crazy stuff about black people and our spending habits. Like literally the way that people talk about us, they want us to be no entertainment, no food, or no entertainment. We have to cook every day. We have to go to the cheapest universities and get the best education somehow. We have to go to public schools and also get the best education somehow. We have to drive the cheapest vehicles. We have to live in the smallest, cheapest houses in the cheapest neighborhoods. And then let's talk about like starting some type of $1 billion business. Like this don't even make sense. No community operates like that. It don't make sense that people just keep calling for the black community to just have perfect. We only spend our money on the most perfect things. That don't even make sense. We already spend better than everybody else because we are doing more with less than everybody else. And I won't say everybody else. I'll say the majority. We do more with less than the majority. More of our money is going to the necessities than everybody else because we have the least amount of money and wealth. Come on, man. I had to take a little bathroom break. You understand? Now, rolling right off of what I was just saying about the black buying and all this type of stuff, business and spending power and all this. There's something that we need to really discuss, right? And it's related to black people and the alcohol issues that we run into in this country. Let me read y'all something real quick because this is important. I think it's important, and I'm always going to talk about alcoholism in a negative light because, like I said, even with me indulging in it, I still think it's negative. It's not a good thing. Nothing good comes from it. So let me read y'all something real quick, right? Alcohol.org. They have a specific page about figures on alcohol use in the black community. If alcohol.org decided to put a page together like this, it must have been something that they needed to discuss with the people, right? Let's see here. Alcohol use in the black community. The National Survey on Drug Use and Health publishes that approximately 43.5% of African American adults currently drank alcohol at this time. Okay. Let me read. There's a cold one right here. In general, listen to this. In general, the alcohol use is In general, alcohol use is generally lower in the black community than in other racial and cultural demographics. That's another piece that people don't really want to talk about. Other people get crazier, or not that other people do these substances more than black people. I know that we got the stigma of just being the most drugged up, liquored up people just in the world, but we're not. We're at a lower than everybody else in America. But this is the piece that we need to really look at, right? We use alcohol lower than other demographics in this country, but problems related to alcohol are greater within the African American community than they are in the European communities. European American is what this says. Listen to this. Look at this. There may be several factors involved in why members of the black community are more likely to struggle with problems related to alcohol than other ethnic minorities, even though they tend to drink less. As a general rule, drinking may not be as socially acceptable in African American cultures, and often these communities have strong religious and spiritual component that may frown upon drinking. But people don't want to talk about that. Let y'all tell it. We all just want people to just be drugged out criminals that listen to negative music all day, and just that's just how we want to be. There's more people that'll judge you for doing that stuff in the black community than there's people that'll support you for it. But I know Twitter and Instagram just runs everybody's brain now. So y'all just forget how judgmental black people are, how much we really outside the internet really look down on a lot of negative stuff going on. Y'all just forget that. Like y'all just act like the criminals are the most loved people in the community. They really ain't. Just because other people that support them throw them a party when they do something, the majority of people are looking down on them. Okay. That being said, black individuals also face quite a bit of stress due to racial discrimination and may also be more likely to suffer legal or criminal consequences when drinking in public than other races simply due to the color of their skin. What that means is everybody is out there drinking, like all communities, everywhere that people just do things and have fun and congregate and do whatever. They're drinking everywhere in America, right? The difference is how we're treated when we drink. They put cops around all the establishments that black people are drinking at. There's police everywhere. So it increases the chances that your life would get messed up walking out of the club because a cop might run into you and say, hey, you about to drunk drive, ain't you? DUI. It's not to say that black people drive drunk more than everybody else. It's to say that there's cops posted up where we drink at looking for us to do something instead of, they're not doing that in other places. I'm gonna tell you one time, like we went to a little situation at a little bar out in Buckhead. It's a little white bar, like a little beer bar type of thing, right? Mostly white people up in there in Buckhead. So my brother get into it with the people or whatever, right? Some people. So I get him up out of there, and this was going on for a minute. The police didn't even get there for a little minute. They didn't get there till we was like on our way about to get in the car. And then we just got up out of there, right? Had you got into a fight inside of a black club and it spilled out into the street or whatever, there would be a 0% chance that the police ain't the ones who stopped you from fighting. 0% chance, because they would be there already. The police damn near are the security at the club. They would already be there. That's how when black people are drinking, that's how it ends up with so many more situations where arrests take place, because the police are already there and they're going to be the ones that intervene in anything that goes negative, versus a lot of these other communities. They don't just have just a bunch of police sitting around them while they're drinking like that. So when they get into these bar fights, they just go home. Like the whole bar fight thing is like a white thing. Anyway, they get into the fight, they go to the crib. There's not even a police officer anywhere around them to do anything to them. And even if they did, they would just look at them and say, man, get up and get up out of here. So and the only reason I brought that up now is to say, with us knowing the problems that alcohol causes and has caused in the community, even though we drink less than other communities, I think it's very peculiar that a lot of black celebrities Once they get to a point in their career where they say, you know what, I'm all about supporting the black business. I'm all about supporting black people. I want to support black culture. It always happens to where they end up creating an alcohol, not I'm gonna say always, but a majority of the time, they end up creating an alcohol brand and then marketing and selling that shit to black people. Like, that's one, and I'm a big Jay-Z fan. I'm talking about him too. Jay-Z is my favorite rapper, but like I'm not like a weird stan type of person though. If somebody I like do something wrong, I'm gonna say that they're doing something wrong. That shit, the fact that they always feel like, yo, they be like, yo, black power, black love, like this black business, all that, and then they want to sell us alcohol. Like, what is that about? And a lot of people don't look at it the way I look at it because they look at alcohol as just like an acceptable thing. But really, alcohol really has not done anything good for our community at all. Not to say everybody just need to stop right now. I'm saying that why do so many people get rich and then want to sell us alcohol is what I'm saying. Like, if there's alcohol out there, cool, whatever, go ahead, do your thing, do what you're doing. I'm just saying, like, what is the fetish of selling it, of getting rich and wanting to sell it to black people? They want to get rich and sell it specifically to black people. We drink less than everybody else, so why is there such a focus on y'all selling it to us? If you really wanted to make a bunch of money, you would market and sell it to Europeans, white people. They drink way more alcohol. They are much bigger consumers of alcoholic beverages than us. By far, it's not even close. Latino countries, it's way more acceptable for them to drink, and even at younger ages than black people. Also, I didn't even read that part. Or did I read that part? Let me see. Look. Let me see. Okay, pretty much it said that black people even start drinking later. Okay, as ethnic minority, African Americans actually tend to drink less, start drinking later, and abuse alcohol less frequently than other races and cultures. Right? So why do these black celebrities get into a position where they have money to invest in an alcohol company, and then they want to sell it to the people who drink the least amount? What is that about? Why wouldn't you go market and sell this stuff to people who drink way more than we drink? Like, that's where the money is at. The money is not in selling alcohol to black people. Yet there's been 100 black celebrities that try to sell alcohol to black people. Start an alcohol brand and like, let's market and push it as much as we can. And then when they don't want to drink that no more, we'll stop and we'll come up with another one and change the marketing and do all this and still push it to black people. I know for a fact that this is deliberate. I just want somebody to come out and be honest about either who's putting you up to it or just be like, I'm really trying to just like destroy the community, honestly. And because like, I'm not just saying that alcohol itself just destroys communities. I'm saying that black people tend to have worse negative consequences as a result of alcohol use and abuse than other people. That's the numbers say that. It's not just me saying that. So if you become a rich billionaire or whatever, and I get it because like Jay-Z and Diddy, they made most of their money off of alcohol. So I get it. But let's just say you're somebody else and you become a rich billionaire, whatever, like LeBron or something like that, right? You made all of this money on shoes and basketball and other endorsements, like whatever. What makes you go and then say, it's time to get in the alcohol bag and push this to my people? That's not where your success even came from. So it's not like you have an allegiance to this alcohol business, like the spirits and wine business. What makes them go that route? Like Kevin Hart. You made all your money in comedy and movies and stuff like that. The next logical step for a person looking to invest that made all their money in that world would be to get land and build a studio. It wouldn't be to start an alcohol company. Not to say you can't do what you want with your money. I'm saying, what's the logic behind it? What are you trying to accomplish by selling black people alcohol, specifically black people alcohol? Y'all could say that y'all wasn't selling specifically to black people. You want everybody to drink it, but I understand marketing too good for you to play that. Like a lot of us actually watch more entertainment and are in spaces that are not just black spaces, right? So when you go watch a television show that's considered like a white television show, you don't see those marketing. You're not going to see that type of marketing. Let's say I go to a white magazine like Mechanic, one of the mechanic magazines that has a mostly white male fan base, right? I'm not going to look through there and see Lobos, or I'm not going to look through there and see Grand Cormino. I'm not going to look through there and see a Duce ad. I'm not going to look through there and see none of that. But if I go to Black Enterprise, I will see that type of stuff in there. So you're specifically going into black spaces to market to black people. When you go to the Breakfast Club, or when you go to Drink Champs or whatever, you're going to bring Grand Cormino up there. You're going to bring Duce up there. You're going to bring Ace of Spade up there. You're going to bring all of these. But when you went to whatever over here, the white joint, you didn't say, yo, y'all need to put my alcohol in front of my face so like they could barely see me. Like just line the whole table with my alcohol. You didn't do that when you went up there. When you was on CNBC or CNN or NBC doing the interview or Good Morning America and all that, you didn't make them line the whole table with your alcohol company. So why when you went to the Breakfast Club, why you do that at the Breakfast Club? What are you trying to do? It's deliberate at this point. And not to say like everybody doesn't market it the same way. I'm just saying that they're clearly just marketing it to black people. You see what I'm saying? If I go watch Wimbledon, I don't see these alcohols advertised there. If I go watch Formula One, the most money is in Formula One. Wouldn't you want people like that to be buying your stuff? I don't see that. I don't see these companies advertising over there. When I look at Inc. magazine, I don't see y'all advertising these liquors in them magazines like that. You see what I'm saying? I see it in Black Enterprise. I see it like I'm trying to get the angle. It's really crazy. Is all I'm gonna say. You spending your investment money to push alcohol to the community that drinks alcohol the least in America. How's that good business? Unless you're trying to convert more black users to alcohol abusers or more black customers to alcohol users. Then that's a whole nother conversation, right? So I'm sure before you jump, because a lot of y'all are intelligent people, I'm sure before you jumped in this lane, you did some research and you saying, black people buy this much alcohol, Latino people buy this much alcohol, Asian people buy this much alcohol, white people buy this much alcohol, and this is the age range of the people who buy the most. Once you did that research, there's no data anywhere that came back to you that said black people are the ones that are going to buy all my alcohol up. So now tell me how you settled on, I'm going to spend my alcohol's marketing budget on black spaces. How did you come up with that? You're better off getting a white spokesman and having them take your alcohol brand to Joe Rogan and selling it there than you are putting your face behind a wall of bottles and trying to sell it to us. We just don't buy alcohol as much as other people. It just is what it is. So you have to stop trying to just leave it alone, man. Go do something else. Matter of fact, I can't tell you what to do with your money. You do what you want. I'm just going to point out the fact that you're doing it, though. I'm going to just point it out. I see you doing it. That's what I'm going to point out. And it seems to be every time they get to a certain level of financial literacy, now it's time for me to sell alcohol to black people. That just seems like the pipeline. The pipeline of I care about my people, financial literacy, here's my alcohol. That pipeline is strong right there. And I don't like it. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to the people who didn't go that route. Robert Smith, which I don't know if he invested in somebody's, but I'm just saying I haven't heard I didn't see you sell nobody no alcohol. You see what I'm saying? Kathy Hughes, I ain't seen you sell nobody no alcohol. You understand? So that's all I really got for y'all, man. I felt like the stuff that I'm discussing is not like the most like entertaining and all that right now, but it needed to be discussed. Shout out to Claudine Gay, man. You know, you do your thing. It is what it is. They got you up out of there, but you still gonna make a lot of money. You still get to work at the university. You know, keep doing your thing to get back where you want to be. We had to discuss that buying power. We had to discuss the YSL trial, most legendary testimony that we've ever seen, if you've seen it. And Katt Williams just stole a week. He stole the whole week. Like, it is what it is, man. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you comment. Make sure you share. Thank you, everybody who've been watching the videos, watching the clips, watching the reels. We went like, not viral, but we did a lot. Like the video, put a video up about one of them Navy Federal clips on TikTok. We did about 15,000 views in a day. So that's big for me because I don't normally do that many views at all. So, you know, shout out to y'all for supporting, man. Make sure you follow the Instagram page, The Regular Network. It's the same name on TikTok if you want to go back and look at a bunch of old videos too. Or I got new videos on there too. The Regular Network on TikTok, The Regular Network on Instagram. We have the Regular Network YouTube page that has the DIY content. We have the Regular Podcast on YouTube that has this podcast going. So, you know, thanks for the support, man. Peace out, y'all.